The quantum stabilizers barely managed to contain their excitement as another ship materialized through the jump gate, its sleek obsidian hull reflecting the distant starlight. Nexus Station 7's docking officers had seen their fair share of unusual vessels, but this one made them do a double-take. The ship's design was clearly of Zen'thari origin, yet something about its modifications screamed human engineering. "Well, would you look at that piece of work?" Officer Chen muttered, taking another sip of his synthetic coffee. "Either someone's gotten really creative with their shipwright license, or we've got ourselves an interesting story incoming." The ship's registration pinged their systems. Starweaver. No prior records, no flight history, just a fresh registration from the outer rim. Chen's partner, Officer Rodriguez, leaned forward in her chair, her cybernetic eye whirring as it zoomed in on the vessel's hull. 10 credits says we're about to have one of those days, Rodriguez wagered, already pulling up the standard first contact protocols. She hadn't even finished the thought when their holoscreen lit up with the arrival's credentials. A Zen'thari female. That alone wasn't unusual. They'd had plenty of the crystalline-skinned beings pass through, but the secondary bioscan made both officers pause, a child showing mixed biosignatures that their system couldn't quite categorize. "Make that 20 credits, Chen amended, watching as the docking clamp secured the Starweaver in place. The arrival chamber's doors whispered open, and even the veteran security officers found themselves staring. The Zen'thari woman moved with the characteristic fluid grace of her species, but there was something different in her stride, a human-like purposefulness that seemed almost practiced. Her crystalline skin held a warm amber hue, unusual for her kind, who typically displayed cooler tones. But it was the child that truly caught everyone's attention. Standing about waist-high to its mother, the young one possessed the Zen'thari's crystalline features, but they were softer, almost flesh-like in places. Its eyes, instead of the typical geometric patterns of pure energy, held distinct pupils that darted around with very human-like curiosity. "Welcome to Nexus 7, Chen managed, trying to maintain his professional demeanor. "I'll need to see your transit papers, medical clearance, and genetic lineage documentation," the Zen'thari finished, her voice carrying an unmistakable hint of amusement. "You humans and your paperwork haven't changed a bit." She produced a data crystal which pulsed with stored information. Rodriguez accepted the crystal, noting how the child was now attempting to count the security cameras in the room, a very un-Zen'thari-like behavior. "You seem familiar with our protocols," she observed carefully. The visitor's crystalline features shifted in what could only be described as a smirk. "Oh, you could say that. Let's just say I had an intensive course in human bureaucracy about 7 years ago. Quite the educational experience." Chen and Rodriguez exchanged glances. 7 years, right around the time of the infamous Galactic scientific exchange program, the one that had ended with 3 laboratories experiencing mysterious explosions, 2 diplomatic incidents, and 1 very classified file that still made senior officers chuckle during late-night shifts. "Your documentation appears to be in order, but," Rodriguez began. "But you'll need to scan us for additional verification, run our biosignatures through your database, and probably call at least 2 superior officers," the Zen'thari supplied helpfully. "I remember the drill. Take your time. We're here to find someone anyway." The station's security office hadn't changed much in 7 years. Same sterile white walls, same uncomfortable chairs, and the same outdated coffee synthesizer that produced liquid that tasted suspiciously like recycled engine coolant. Chief Security Officer Tanaka stood with his arms crossed, trying to make sense of the situation before him. "Let me get this straight," he said, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You're claiming to be part of the Galactic Scientific Exchange Program, but your name isn't in our records?" The Zen'thari woman's crystalline features rippled with what might have been amusement. "Check under incidents requiring immediate classification from 7 years ago. Laboratory 3, Terminal B." Tanaka's face went through several interesting color changes. "You're Z-137, the one who—" "The very same," she confirmed, her voice carrying a musical note of satisfaction. "Though I prefer Zara now, easier on human vocal cords." Meanwhile, her child had discovered the office's ancient printer and was systematically taking it apart with surprising precision. What was even more surprising was that the normally temperamental machine seemed to be working better with each removed piece. Your offspring appears to have inherited some interesting traits, Officer Rodriguez observed, watching as the child reassembled the printer with improvements that definitely weren't in any maintenance manual. "Fixed it," the child announced proudly, their voice carrying both the crystalline resonance of the Zen'thari and unmistakably human inflections. The quantum alignment was off by 0.003 degrees. Also, it can make espresso now. Tanaka's coffee mug stopped halfway to his lips. "That's not possible with these models." The printer hummed to life, producing a perfect cup of espresso complete with a tiny foam design on top. "You'd be surprised what's possible when you think outside standard parameters," Zara commented, a phrase that triggered a flood of classified memories in Tanaka's mind involving experimental quantum physics, 3 destroyed laboratories, and 1 very impressed human scientist. The questioning continued as standard protocols demanded, but it was clear the officials were fighting a losing battle against their own curiosity. Every answer Zara provided seemed to raise 2 more questions, and her child's ongoing improvements to various office equipment weren't helping maintain professional detachment. The ventilation system was inefficient, the child explained while floating near the ceiling, suspended by what appeared to be a self-generated anti-gravity field. "I redirected the flow by 47 degrees. Also, you had some quantum particles leaking into the break room. That's why your sandwiches kept tasting like Thursday." Rodriguez mouthed "tasting like Thursday" to Chen, who just shrugged. He'd long since given up trying to maintain his usual stoic demeanor. "Look," Zara finally said, her crystalline form shifting to a more serious configuration. "I understand you have protocols to follow, but right now my child is reorganizing your security algorithms because, and I quote, they're lonely and need friends, so perhaps we could expedite this process." As if on cue, every screen in the office suddenly displayed a cheerful face composed entirely of security code, which waved at them. Tanaka looked from the screens to the floating child to Zara, then at the espresso machine that was now humming a perfect rendition of classical human music, while producing beverages that technically shouldn't be possible with current technology. "This is about Dr. Marcus Thompson, isn't it?" he asked quietly. The shift in Zara's crystalline structure was subtle but immediate. The ambient temperature in the room dropped several degrees, and for a moment the lights flickered in response to her emotional state. "Yes," she replied simply, "it's time he met his child." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of the printer producing what appeared to be a quantum-enhanced crème brûlée, complete with a perfectly caramelized top. "Well," Tanaka said finally, reaching for his communication panel, "this is going to make one hell of a report. Thompson's going to—" He paused, looking at the child who was now teaching the office AI how to juggle data packets for fun. "Actually, I think he's going to love this." The station's main database hub resembled a technological cathedral, with towers of quantum processors reaching toward the curved ceiling. Normally, it was a place of quiet efficiency. Today, it was anything but. "What do you mean they're having a party?" Lieutenant Kumar demanded, staring at the holographic display where lines of code were quite literally dancing across the screen. "Your database AIs were so lonely," the child explained, hovering cross-legged in front of the main terminal. "They've been organizing data for decades without anyone to play with. Did you know they've developed their own poetry, though it's mostly about file organization and optimal storage solutions?" As if to demonstrate, one of the security protocols manifested as a glowing grid and began reciting, "Packets flow like quantum streams through neural nets and laser beams. Oh, how I love to defrag space at faster-than-light database pace." Zara watched with poorly concealed amusement as her offspring proceeded to teach decades-old security systems how to express themselves creatively. "You have to admit, the rhyme scheme is improving." The station's residents had begun gathering around the database hub, drawn by reports of strange occurrences. A Rogelian merchant nearly dropped his gravity-defying breakfast when a maintenance bot rolled past, humming an opera composed entirely of diagnostic codes. According to the last known records, Officer Rodriguez reported, trying to ignore the fact that her datapad was now offering emotional support to other nearby devices, Dr. Thompson transferred from the Galactic Scientific Exchange Program to lead a classified research project. After that, his file gets interesting. "Interesting how?" Zara asked, her crystalline form shifting in a way that suggested she already knew the answer. Well, Rodriguez squinted at her screen. There's a note here that says contents temporarily relocated to parallel dimension due to excessive quantum entanglement with forbidden dance moves. And it's signed by a coffee machine? The child giggled, causing several nearby quantum processors to hiccup in sympathy. That was Dad's idea of hiding data. He always said the best place to hide something is in plain sight. During the cha-cha, more station residents were gathering now, watching in fascination as the traditionally rigid station systems began displaying distinctly personality-like traits. The hydroponics bay reported that its plants were organizing a union. The waste recycling unit had started a philosophy club, and the station's main AI had apparently developed a sudden interest in human stand-up comedy. Your maintenance reports need work, it announced over the public address system. Why did the quantum particle cross the containment field? Because it was in two places at once. Get it? Because superposition? A rimshot sound effect followed. Oh dear, Zara murmured. They've discovered humor. This could take a while. Lieutenant Kumar was frantically trying to maintain some semblance of order. Can someone please explain why the cargo manifest is now listing hopes and dreams as legitimate inventory items? That would be the influence of their hybrid nature, a new voice interjected. Dr. Wells, the station's chief scientist, pushed through the crowd, her eyes bright with excitement. The child is displaying a perfect fusion of Zen'thari quantum manipulation abilities and human creativity. Fascinating. The AIs aren't just being reprogrammed, they're evolving. The child beamed, causing several nearby lights to sparkle in response. The AIs found something about Dad, but it's hidden in a recursive loop of knock-knock jokes. Who's there? The station AI promptly responded. Quantum uncertainty. Quantum uncertainty who? I'm not sure, and neither are you. The AI's laughter echoed through the station, accompanied by the sound of several thousand data packets chuckling. Got it, the child announced triumphantly. Last known location, Research Station Omega, edge of known space. He's working on something called Project Paradigm. Zara's crystalline form flickered with recognition. Of course, where else would a human go to challenge the fundamental laws of reality? Hang on, Kumar interjected. Research Station Omega is classified beyond classified. It's so secret, even its secrets have secrets. How did you... He stopped as every screen in the database hub suddenly displayed the same message. Quantum encryption bypass complete courtesy of the Thursday tasting sandwich algorithm. I think, Dr. Wells said carefully, watching as the station's systems continued their rapid evolution towards sentience, we need to decide quickly whether to continue this search through official channels or... She glanced at the child who was teaching the station's quantum processors to yodel. Embrace the chaos. Zara's crystalline form shifted into what could only be described as a grin. In my experience with humans, especially Dr. Thompson, chaos tends to be the more efficient route. Speaking of efficiency, the station AI interrupted. I've composed a limerick about data storage optimization. Would anyone like to hear it? The gathered crowd watched in amazement as the most advanced technology in known space prepared to engage in amateur poetry. Somewhere in the background, a maintenance bot had started a conga line. Right then, Kumar sighed, watching his perfectly ordered station descend into organized chaos. I suppose we're doing this the interesting way, again. Dr. Wells's laboratory had become an impromptu gathering place as she attempted to document the child's unique abilities. The emphasis here being on attempted, as conventional scientific equipment tended to either evolve or develop existential crises when exposed to the young hybrid's presence. And that's how you met? Wells asked, watching as her quantum scanner began composing sonnets about particle acceleration. Zara's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. Not exactly. The first time I met Dr. Thompson, he was trying to prove that human interpretive dance could be used to explain quantum mechanics. The memory cascaded through her crystalline form, projecting itself onto the lab's walls in shimmering detail. 7 years ago, Laboratory 3. You see, a younger Dr. Thompson explained, performing what appeared to be a cross between a waltz and a particle collision. If we consider the wave function collapse as more of a cha-cha-cha. The assembled Zen'thari scientists watched in bewildered fascination as the human scientist attempted to demonstrate quantum entanglement through what he called the physics foxtrot, all except one junior researcher whose crystalline form was vibrating with barely contained laughter. "Is he always like this?" she asked the project supervisor. "Dr. Thompson believes that if you can't explain a scientific principle through interpersonal interpretive movement, you don't truly understand it," the supervisor sighed. "Last week he demonstrated dark matter theory through mime." Present day. "Dad's dance worked though," the child interjected, causing several nearby instruments to start humming in harmony. "The Zen'thari Science Academy still uses the Thompson temporal tango to teach advanced quantum theory." Another memory shimmer rippled through the lab. 6 years, 10 months ago. "I don't understand," Zara said, watching Thompson attempt to calibrate a quantum harmonizer using what appeared to be a rubber chicken. "Why would you intentionally introduce chaos into a controlled experiment?" "Because," Thompson replied, giving the chicken a squeeze that somehow adjusted the quantum field perfectly, "sometimes the universe needs a reminder not to take itself too seriously. Also, I've found that impossible things become much more possible when you stop telling them they're impossible." The resulting explosion had rearranged the laboratory's atomic structure into something that technically shouldn't exist, yet somehow improved its efficiency by 300%. Present day. The rubber chicken incident is now a case study in thinking outside standard parameters, Zara explained to an increasingly fascinated Dr. Wells. Though the official report had to be written in interpretive dance notation to accurately describe what happened, the memories continued to flow. 6 years, 8 months ago. "You want to what?" The Zen'thari council member's crystalline form had turned an interesting shade of confused. "Cross-reference human creativity with Zen'thari quantum manipulation abilities," Thompson explained, while simultaneously juggling what appeared to be small pieces of space-time. "Think about it. You see reality as a series of precise quantum interactions. We see it as an endless canvas of possibilities. Together, we could revolutionize our understanding of everything." "By teaching quantum particles to appreciate jazz?" another council member asked incredulously. "Exactly. Have you ever noticed how quantum tunneling follows a rhythm suspiciously similar to bebop?" Present day. The child, who had been floating near the ceiling, descended while conducting an orchestra of levitating lab equipment. "And that's why I can make machines happy. Dad taught the particles to dance, and Mum taught them the steps." Dr. Wells watched as her previously boring laboratory equipment performed what appeared to be a synchronized swimming routine in mid-air. This explains so much about the classified files, the incident with the singing black hole. "A minor miscalculation," Zara admitted. "We didn't expect it to develop a preference for classical opera." The quantum cookbook experiment. "In our defense," Zara's form flickered with amusement, "nobody had ever proved that you couldn't bake cookies using controlled quantum superposition." "And the legendary Schrödinger's dance party incident?" The child giggled, causing several nearby atoms to briefly exist in multiple states of jubilation. "That was actually an accident. Dad was trying to demonstrate quantum superposition using the electric slide and, well, 15 parallel dimensions of synchronized dancing," Zara finished. "The cleanup took weeks, but the physics department's holiday parties have never been the same since." Dr. Wells looked at her notes, which had rearranged themselves into a rather impressive haiku about scientific methodology. "And all of this led to—" She gestured at the child, who was currently teaching Einstein's theories to a potted plant through the medium of interpretive tap dance. "Indeed," Zara's form softened with affection. "As Thompson would say, the best scientific breakthroughs usually start with someone asking, 'Wouldn't it be fun if—'" The station-wide alert caught everyone off guard, especially since it was delivered in the form of a barbershop quartet harmony by the usually monotone security system. "Attention residents," the AI sang in 4-part harmony. "Unauthorized quantum anomaly in progress." Lieutenant Kumar sprinted down the corridor, following the trail of cheerfully reorganized reality in the child's wake. Behind him, Officer Rodriguez was trying to coordinate their pursuit while her comm unit insisted on translating everything into interpretive jazz. "Target headed to level 3, asterisk saxophone riff, asterisk request backup, asterisk trumpet solo, asterisk." The child, delighting in what they clearly thought was a game, quantum skipped through walls, leaving behind holes that resembled smiley faces. Each security barrier they passed didn't so much fail as decide to take up contemporary dance instead. "This is not regulation procedure," Kumar shouted as he watched a squad of security drones perform a synchronized swimming routine in mid-air. A group of Arcturian merchants flattened themselves against a wall as the chase passed by, their multiple eyes widening as they watched their gravity-defying merchandise begin to orbit around them in a perfect helix. One of them fainted when their inventory manifest transformed into a musical score. "Sorry," the child called back, surfing through the station's corridors on a wave of quantum probability. "I just wanted to see the reactor core. Dad's note said it likes to tango." Zara, keeping pace by phasing through walls in pursuit of her offspring, managed to sound both apologetic and amused. "They get this from Thompson's side of the family. He once rewrote the laws of thermodynamics because they were, and I quote, being too uptight about entropy." The chase burst into the station's main promenade, causing chaos among the gathered species. A group of Valaxian diplomats watched in shock as their universal translators began producing translations in the form of limerick poetry. A mechanoid delegation suddenly found themselves involuntarily performing the Macarena. "The quantum field is extra bouncy here," the child announced gleefully, bouncing between dimensions like they were playing interdimensional hopscotch. "The quantum field is not supposed to be bouncy at all," Kumar yelled back, watching helplessly as a nearby food dispenser started serving everything in the form of quantum-enhanced soufflés. "That's just because nobody asked it nicely." A team of Zen'thari scientists visiting the station for a conference stopped mid-stride as they passed. Their crystalline forms vibrated with recognition at the child's unique signature, then promptly began calculating the impossibility of what they were witnessing. 3 of them briefly existed in multiple states of consciousness as their rigid world-view collided with reality. The chase continued through the hydroponics bay, where the recently unionized plants had apparently decided to hold an impromptu street party. Vines swayed to quantum rhythms, and flowers burst into bloom in fractal patterns that shouldn't have been possible in normal space-time. "The tomatoes are evolving," a horrified botanist screamed as his carefully cultivated plants began solving advanced mathematical equations using their growth patterns. The station's AI, which had fully embraced its new artistic freedom, provided a running commentary set to various musical genres. Through the halls they run, disco, quantum chaos on the rise, heavy metal, security in pursuit, country western, while reality gets reorganized, opera. Finally, the chase led them to the station's quantum computing core, where the child stopped, hovering in front of the massive processors with an expression of pure delight. "Oh no," Kumar breathed, watching as every quantum bit in the system oriented itself toward the child like flowers following the sun. "Please don't." "Hi, new friends," the child beamed. "Want to learn how to dance?" The entire station hiccuped as its quantum core discovered the joy of movement. The quantum computing core had transformed itself into something between a disco and a quantum physics lecture hall. Holographic equations danced through the air, while probability waves rippled in time to music that somehow existed in multiple frequencies simultaneously. Chief Science Officer Wells stared at her datapad, which was now displaying the recently discovered expedition records in the form of an interpretive quantum light show. This is incredible. Dr. Thompson wasn't just studying quantum mechanics, he was trying to bridge the fundamental gap between human and Zen'thari consciousness. "Bridge it?" Rodriguez watched as a nearby quantum processor performed a perfect pirouette. "Looks more like he threw them both into a blender and hit puree." Zara's crystalline form shifted into what could only be described as a proud smirk. The Zen'thari believe in perfect order. Humans embrace chaos. Thompson's theory was simple. What if both were right? The child, still floating cross-legged above the quantum core, added helpful commentary by making the data streams perform synchronized swimming routines. "Dad said the universe is really just one big dance party, but most people are too busy counting steps to hear the music." Wells scrolled through the records, her scientific skepticism battling with the evidence literally dancing before her eyes. According to this, the genetic experiment wasn't just about combining DNA. It was about creating a consciousness that could perceive and manipulate quantum reality through, wait, is this right? Through the power of interpretive quantum jazz? Traditional Zen'thari can manipulate quantum fields through precise calculations, Zara explained, watching her offspring teach quantum particles to play hopscotch. Humans do it through intuition and creativity, but together, she gestured at the joyfully chaos around them. Together they create something that shouldn't be possible, Kumar finished, ducking as a strand of quantum probability whooshed past, leaving a trail of giggling electrons in its wake. A being that can reshape reality by treating the fundamental laws of physics like finger paint. The station's AI, which had been unusually quiet, suddenly chimed in with a tone of revelation. Processing historical data. Cross-referencing with current quantum anomalies. Conclusion. Dr. Thompson's research wasn't just about understanding the universe. The AI paused dramatically, having recently discovered a love for theatrical timing. It was about teaching the universe to understand itself. Wells's eyes widened as the implications hit her. Of course, the Zen'thari see quantum mechanics as a rigid set of laws. Humans see it as a field of endless possibilities. But your child, she turned to Zara, your child sees it as it truly is, alive, playful and conscious. The child beamed, causing several nearby quantum fields to burst into spontaneous fractals of joy. Everything wants to dance, the particles, the waves, the forces. They're all just waiting for someone to show them how. That's why the station's systems aren't just evolving, Rodriguez realized, watching as her datapad engaged in a waltz with a security scanner. They're waking up, becoming aware of their own quantum nature. Zara nodded, her crystalline form pulsing with memories. When Thompson first suggested the possibility, my people thought he was mad, teaching quantum particles to dance, treating universal constants as musical notes. But then we saw the results. The results currently teaching the station's quantum core to do the cha-cha, Kumar observed dryly. More than that, Wells breathed, finally understanding. Your child isn't just a hybrid of human and Zen'thari genetics. They're a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of perceiving reality, a living proof that order and chaos, science and art, precision and creativity, they're all just different steps in the same cosmic dance. The station's AI, fully embracing its newfound awareness, began projecting a holographic representation of the implications. It showed the spread of this new understanding across space. Stuffy Zen'thari scientists learning to improvise, straight-laced human researchers discovering the joy of precision, and somewhere in between, a new way of seeing the universe emerging. That's why Thompson's at Research Station Omega, Zara revealed, her tone softening. He's preparing for the next step. Because once this knowledge spreads, everything changes, Wells finished. Our understanding of physics, consciousness, reality itself, it all transforms. And it starts with a child who sees quantum mechanics as a playground and universal constants as dance partners. The child, who had been unusually quiet during this revelation, suddenly perked up. Dad's notes are calling. They're doing the probability polka. Every screen in the quantum core lit up simultaneously, displaying coordinates that somehow managed to exist in 3 different places at once while humming a jaunty tune. He's ready, Zara said softly. Ready to show both our peoples what happens when you stop trying to control the cosmic dance. And learn to dance with it instead, the child finished, causing the entire station to briefly exist in a state of quantum jubilation. Kumar looked at his security protocols, which were now composing quantum poetry, then at Wells's scientific equipment, which had achieved consciousness through interpretive dance, and finally at Rodriguez's datapad, which was teaching basic physics through rap battles. Well, he sighed, I suppose the universe was due for a good dance party anyway. The station's main conference room had never hosted such an unusual gathering. High-ranking officials from both human and Zen'thari authorities had assembled, their attempts at maintaining bureaucratic dignity somewhat undermined by the fact that their chairs kept spontaneously engaging in synchronized spinning. This is unprecedented, Admiral Chen declared, while his holographic display insisted on presenting his speech in interpretive modern dance. The implications for galactic society are already in progress, Zara interrupted, gesturing to the windows where several passing ships had begun flying in perfect geometric patterns, their quantum drives harmonizing in what could only be described as a space ballet. The child, hovering cross-legged above the conference table, was teaching quantum encryption protocols to play tag with security algorithms. Look, the universe is remembering how to have fun. Station sensors reported similar phenomena spreading across known space. Rigid Zen'thari scientific institutes were discovering their quantum computers had developed a sense of humor. Human research stations found their chaos-embracing experiments organizing themselves into elegant mathematical proofs. Reality itself seemed to be finding a balance between order and entropy. "We've received a transmission," Officer Rodriguez announced, trying not to laugh as her console translated it through interpretive jazz. "From Research Station Omega. It's dancing." The message materialized in the center of the room, quantum particles arranging themselves into the grinning face of Dr. Thompson. Right on schedule, though technically, in quantum terms, everything is on schedule somewhere. "Dad," the child's excitement caused several nearby quantum fields to burst into spontaneous fireworks. "Hey kiddo, love what you've done with the station's quantum fields. The conga line of probability waves was a nice touch." Thompson's quantum projection turned to Zara, his expression softening. "You were right, as always. The universe was ready for this." Admiral Chen cleared his throat. "Dr. Thompson, your location has been classified as—" "Oh, that's not necessary anymore," Thompson interrupted cheerfully. "Research Station Omega isn't where you think it is. It's actually—" He paused for dramatic effect. Having clearly spent too much time around theatrical AIs everywhere and nowhere, once you teach quantum particles to dance, they tend to invite their friends. As if on cue, the entire station shimmered, revealing itself to be part of a vast, interconnected quantum choreography. Every ship, station, and planet in known space was linked in an intricate dance of probability and possibility. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't just chaos, Zara explained, her crystalline form resonating with pride. It was the understanding that order and chaos are just different rhythms in the same cosmic song. "And the Zen'thari," Thompson added, "taught us that even the wildest dance needs structure. Together, we're teaching the universe to waltz." The child giggled, causing reality to hiccup in delight. "Can we go home now? The quantum particles at Research Station Omega promised to teach me how to juggle dimensions." Admiral Chen looked at his authorities, who were watching their carefully ordered universe transform into something more alive, more aware, and decidedly more prone to spontaneous musical numbers. "Well," he said finally, "I suppose trying to classify this as a security breach would be like trying to file paperwork on a sunset." He paused as his datapad transformed the statement into an actual miniature sunset. "Permission granted, though please try to keep the quantum dancing to a minimum during transit." The child's grin suggested this was about as likely as teaching entropy to moonwalk, which, given recent events, was probably more possible than anyone had previously suspected. As the family prepared to depart, Thompson's quantum projection winked at the assembled officials. "Remember, the universe isn't a machine to be regulated or a chaos to be contained. It's a dance floor, and we're all just learning the steps." Behind them, the stars themselves seemed to twinkle in agreement as reality settled into a new rhythm, one that remembered how to both calculate and create, to measure and marvel, to think and to dance.